Okay, so let's add document cleaning to our application. First thing we'll do is we'll put an input button onto the page, go over to the properties window where we can set up its name and ID, give it the ID despeckle button, because we're going to make this button call our despeckle command on the server. And we'll just call it despeckle so that we know what the button does. If we go over to the source view now, what we'll do is we'll add a JavaScript call to the onClick event of the button. Up until now, all of the AJAX that's used by the DotImage web controls is being done for you automatically and behind the scenes, but sometimes you need to call your own functions that you want to build on the server. You're calling any image processing routine, and I'll show you how to do that now. What we'll do is we'll create this JavaScript function here in this file that we're calling in the onClick method, and that was called despeckle. So we'll create a function here called despeckle. And in that function, all we need to do is call the remote invoke method of the web image viewer. And what that does is make an asynchronous call back to the code behind page code and look for a function of the name that we specify. And here we're calling that despeckle. So this will asynchronously call a despeckle function in the page code. So if we go here and create a public void method called despeckle that takes no arguments, that now matches our call. And we could have passed arguments, but we don't need any here. And then the last thing we need to do is we need to add a remote invocable attribute to this method. So in order to do that, I just need to bring in the namespace where remote invocable is. So I'll add the remote invocable attribute, and now this function can be called via remote invoke from JavaScript. And this will be an AJAX style call, so the page will not reload, it will not be a full post back. And since I'm going to do some image processing, I'm going to just bring in some of the namespaces from DotImage that I need in order to process an image and save it into a TIFF. So I'll bring in the TIFF codec and a few of the image processing namespaces. Okay, and now we're ready to write despeckle. What I'm going to do here is create a helper function called apply and save, which will take an image command. So I'll just call apply and save. And pass in a new document despeckle command, which is the DotImage command that you can use to despeckle images. And then I'll have Visual Studio create that stub for me automatically. Now, since I'm going to be using this for other image commands, I'm going to change the argument to just be the base class image command and the name to be command. I'm going to be reusing this. And here's how we apply and save an image command back into a TIFF. So applying a command returns an image results. So I'll just save the results of applying the command to the image in the web image viewer. And then I'll call a helper function called save changes and just pass in the resulting image. And I'll have Visual Studio create that function for me too. And then to save this image back to the current page, all we need to do is find out where the current image is being stored, and we can get that from the web image viewer. We'll find out if the URL of the image is showing, and then use mathpath to find out the full path name to that file. And this will give us a location back into the cache. as you saw in a previous lesson, how we had cached this image into the italic cache. So I'm going to edit it right there in the cache. We find out what frame of the image we're viewing, and then we'll open up a file stream. And DotImage comes with a class called TIFF document, which makes it very easy to edit the contents of TIFFs without actually decoding the images. This is for replacing pages or moving pages around or adding new pages. And since we're replacing a page, all you have to do is construct the TIFF document and then just replace the page. We have the frame number, we make a new page from the image, and it didn't have to actually decode any of the images in the TIFF in order to do that. Then we just save that back to a temp file. We'll just construct a temp name from the original name plus a suffix, and then we'll remove the original, I should say, and then move the temporary one on to the original name. So we've edited that in place, and then we just have to tell the web image viewer to open this file again. Now, since we'd like the web image viewer to update itself when this is completely done, what we can do is set up an asynchronous callback for when the asynchronous AJAX call is completely done. If we go back to the JavaScript, the easiest way to do this is to tell the web image viewer that when a remote invoke is done, call reload. So remote invoked is a function property of web image viewer 1, and you set it to a function that will be called when the asynchronous call is completely done. That way you can do whatever you need to do on the client side when you're completely done with your server side. And what we're going to do is tell the web image viewer and the web thumbnail viewer that they can update themselves. So the order of events is remote invoke calls despeckle, the despeckle on the server side gets called, and when that's completely done, reload will be called. And I'll go here, I'll despeckle this image, and now you see that the specks have been removed. Once you have one cleanup function, it's easy enough to add a few more. I'll add 2 more buttons to my page, and then use the property window to set their name. The first one will be a rotate button, and we'll use that to rotate images. And then we'll choose the second one and set that to a deskew button, which can straighten images automatically if they come in from a scanner slightly skewed. And once we set up the properties, we can go back to the source window. And set their on-click events, similarly to how we did the speckle. We'll just call rotate, make the rotate button call rotate JavaScript function. And that actually has to be a call with parentheses. And then we'll set the on-click of deskew to call it deskew JavaScript function. And then these functions are very much like the speckle. Just make rotate call rotate on the server. Deskew will call deskew on the server. And then if I go to the code behind, I just have to make a rotate and deskew remote invocable functions, and those are very much like these. So I'll just copy them. And I'll make my rotate function, and then I'll use the rotate command from DotImage and make it a 90-degree rotation, make a deskew remote invocable function, and have that call the auto deskew command. And now we can run it. So my first page, I'll fit to width so you can see it's slightly skewed. I'll deskew it, and that'll straighten the image. If I go to my second page, it's upside down, so I'll use rotate 90 twice to fix that. This page could be despeckled. It also is slightly skewed, so I'll also deskew it. And that's how easy it is to clean your documents in a website using DotImage.